Hello, everyone. Welcome to another discussion of To Your Eternity. This is volume 6, and our discussions of the first 5 volumes can be found, the odd ones, on Merphy's channel, Merphy Napier Reviews, and the even ones are going to be here. So, Merphy, we are now on volume 6 of To Your Eternity. How are you feeling? How did you feel about volume 6, and how are you feeling about the series in general?
Let me throw this out there at the beginning of the video, just in case we have some viewers that won't make it to the end. Philip and I have decided for future
Oh, yes.
discussions,
Thank you. Yeah.
we're going to double up. Just because the pacing in the series is a little bit slower. And so we've had several commenters mention this might be a better series to do discussing, not volume to volume, but grouping them together a little bit more. So this is for volume 6, but next chat is going to be for volumes 7 and 8.
And 8. Yes.
So this volume, okay. So I've been reading the manga.
Yeah.
But there have been a couple of volumes that I'm like, ooh, let me check that out in the anime. Mostly the action sequences, just because I think that her action is beautiful and I like to see it come to life. This volume, I think, was the volume where I was the most confused. There were scenes that I was like, what is even happening? And I meant to watch the anime episodes before we chat, because the anime, Philip, does a better job, I think, in certain scenes that are a little bit more confusing. It always adds better clarity to me when I watch the anime. I'm like, oh, okay, I now know what's happening. But this week has been so busy that I haven't had the opportunity to do it. So I'm just confused. There were some things that I did really enjoy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Some really great stuff though. Hayase, hate her. Just she's horrible. Throw her out the window. Your instinct was right. She's a baddie.
Yeah.
But we explored her a little bit more, and I love the conclusion that we came to with Fushi with Hayase. I also think that we did break the formula. In this volume, we started doing some different things, both in the forms that the knockers took, in the way all that played out. And as well as in how death was treated. In this volume, it wasn't exclusively a collecting forms, getting stronger, but there was a different kind of thing that we experienced. And the way we went about it, I'm really excited to unpack with you, because I have a lot of feelings on Poran and everything that happened there. So overall thoughts are, I'm confused, but also some good stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those positives, and they are definitely there. But I certainly do share your confusion. And I think some of it is just, I think I don't quite understand the motives of some of the characters.
Okay.
And it happened to me with Tonari, for example.
Sure.
Where initially we met this character in was it the 4th? Or the 5th? 4th, I think.
I think 4th,
whichever one
the
it was.
very end of the 4th.
Yeah, the very end of the 4th, and she entices Poran and Fushi onto the boat, and she just seems like such a random element, and I didn't really. But then the next one, I thought, okay, I'm getting to see some of her motives. I'm getting to see some of her trauma. I'm starting understanding. I thought, okay, that helps,
Mm-hmm.
But it keeps happening again and again to me, where I'm just like, why is this like? I do not know why.
You didn't understand the sexual assault scene in the beginning.
I don't understand her obsession. Like, when did this happen? Like, when he was in a bear form and almost killed her, she
said when she first saw him, she fell in love with him.
Okay, but I didn't see that at all.
Right. I think she just has a really sick obsession with him because he's immortal, specifically, and that's why she keeps that's why she keeps calling him immortal instead of trying to seek out a name for him. And she's killing off Perona just to give him another form. It's her gift to him, and she's licking him in his sleep. And
so she wants to own him, like, you are mine for the taking. And I'm not going to show the images on these pages because
that's fine,
that scene, but she says you are mine for the taking, and there's a lot of huffing and all that.
Do you know the baby in the last volume cover?
Did you find out what that was?
One of my patrons told me
Oh, okay, spill the beans.
she wants to have his baby. It's
Oh,
her dream.
okay. So it's her
So
dream.
that's
Okay.
why we open up on that scene in this. That's what she's trying to make happen.
Oh.
Yeah, she's sick, man.
Yeah, she has issues. But I feel like a lot of this is about control and ownership, and that's why the assault, which is what that is.
Yep.
So it's pretty disturbing. But I just never felt a compelling, like, why does this obsession take root in the first place? It just happens. And okay, we're portraying obsession now, but also with some of the other characters, a lot of it just feels abrupt to me. Like the I love the fact that we have a band of friends
Yeah.
around Tonari, and I was kind of mildly upset that they died in here, and we'll talk about them, I guess. But I didn't really ever feel like I got a chance to feel attached to any of them. It's like, okay,
Yes, I agree with that.
there goes Poultry Boy. Oh well, you know, whatever his name was, Leroy or something like Uroy, I think.
So I do agree
Okay,
that they weren't fleshed out. They
yeah,
were side characters, very much side characters.
yeah,
However, this whole series has been building up characters and getting to know them closely and then losing them. So
yeah.
having some fodder characters isn't really a negative to me. I
Uh-huh.
almost think that it would be worse if we lost Tonari because it would just be another building up a character just to kill her to get another form. And
Yeah,
this feels more like chaos of the world where characters that we don't know well and we haven't gotten to know, they die too. It's not just plot devices that die. You know what I mean?
right. I do, and I feel like the importance of their deaths is that it has an impact on Tonari,
Yeah.
which is kind of like, okay, if we're interpreting each cover now as the dream of a character, this probably is Tonari's dream of a better. This looks like a nice place to live here, this island, and there are her friends there. You know,
Well, do you
um,
remember she actually writes that dream down in this volume?
yeah,
She imagines being on an island with her friends, being secure, being away from all this, being happy.
yeah,
And so yeah, she that dream physically was written down, was
yeah,
expressed in this volume. And then obviously her dream also is to create a better space where she is now. Her new dream is to make this island into a home instead of a place to get away from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's well said. And I do feel much actually more invested in Tonari than initially, so I'm pleased about that development because when
Definitely.
we first met her, I was like, I don't know what to think. I don't know what this is. This is just chaos. But at this
Yeah.
point, I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to like her as a character now. I'm starting to feel more invested, and I'm glad she didn't die, like
I
everybody else.
totally thought she would.
Yeah. I mean, with
Yeah.
this series, I was just like, all right, fine, kill her. All right, just do it, get it over with. Uh,
Right.
but they
And
didn't.
that's the breaking of the formula that we saw here because
Yeah,
according to the formula, she should have died here. But she didn't. And according to the formula, we could have killed Hayase. And that would have certainly been a form that would be, some sort of powerful. But,
right.
I mean, she did die technically, but it, right? She was taken over by the thing.
Okay, that was a question I had. Now, earlier, we're going all over the place, but why not? Because this is chaos
Sure.
anyway.
Yeah, let's just
Uh,
talk about it.
earlier, the knocker enters her, and unlike anyone else,
Yeah, with the arm. That was one
she,
of the scenes I didn't
she
understand.
squeezes it out like a zit.
Dude,
And
I don't even know.
I think that's what happened. She squeezes it with her hand, and she has this inflated arm, and she's like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, and the
So did
thing
she
goes.
reject it? Like, was
I
it trying to
mean,
take her over?
either she rejected it or she was just too corrupt for it, or I don't know. I
So
have
here's
no
what I
idea.
think. Here's what I think, and I don't know. This was one of the scenes that I was like, what is even happening right now?
Yeah.
So I think what happened is that it tried to enter her and she like squeezed it out. Like she refused to allow it to do so. It started
Okay.
to take over her arm and she refused. And then at the end, when she got rejected by Fushi and she was told by Fushi, I hate you. I won't even think of you in my death.
Oh,
Like,
she
you're
couldn't, she
done.
just let it in.
She let it in. So she had the ability to refuse it. But then when she lost the thing that she was obsessed with and she lost all hope at ever having him, then when it came to her again, she just surrendered to it.
So if
So
you're
we'll
right,
probably see her form again in the
but she's
form of a
dead.
knocker, but
Yeah.
she's dead. So
Okay.
the knocker took her form, not him. So that is a break in the formula that we didn't lose, and a character that we cared about. Instead, that character got hope for a better future.
Okay.
It's a very hopeful hope, like the idea of being able to change this island that is absolutely lawless and has had years and years and years of corruption and all this stuff,
Yeah.
to be able to rebuild it. I mean, I'll hope with her. I want that.
Yeah.
But it is very hopeful.
Yeah.
But we have a hope for a better future. We have a promise that we'll probably see her again, and it'll be in a good context, in a good light. Uh, he didn't take on a new form in this volume. Something new happened to a person that did die. Two new things happened with people who did die. So yeah, I like the break in the formula. I'm really happy about that.
Okay. And no more of this.
Yeah,
Ah,
she's messed up, man.
yeah, a very disturbed character. But I think I agree with you that she's done now.
She's
And
done.
yeah,
Well, yeah, we'll see her as a knocker,
yes, yeah, as a
I
knocker.
think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're helping me out here. So before we get there, of course, yeah, okay, here's the moment when it splatters out of her arm like a giant zit, you know. So
Yeah, I don't know.
how is she able to do that and no one else is? I don't know. Right? I mean, ugh. Yeah, this was a pretty grisly volume with all the zombie knockers going around and all of that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was really cool. Sorry I told Philip my iPad died and it's not charging. It refuses to charge. So I can't actually flip through the volume. So Philip's really leading me in this one. So the zombie knockers, yeah, I really, really liked them taking on that different form and a
Yeah.
different kind of horror that we have to deal with. And that's these hordes of people. It mixed up what the fighting looked like and what that sort of scenario. That was another thing that I was asking for, is these knocker fights are kind of all starting to look the same. We
Yeah.
actually did something different in that way, and I really liked this fight. I thought that it was quick, it was snappy, but it was also very ugh.
Yeah, it was visceral.
It was
And there were
visceral.
certain moments that definitely stand out. Tonari almost gets taken early on, and then she's rescued by Chair Girl or Mia or whatever, and the others, the friends who come back to the island. So that was that kind of loyalty you see with initially Tonari coming back to rescue Fushi, and then the others coming back to rescue her. That's endearing and everything. But it is tragic how these companions initially, and the knocker got the little one first. That's I was actually surprised when what's her name, Oopsie or something, Oopa
Yeah.
Oopa, yes. So Oopsie, it got Oopa, and she
Yeah.
ah, and that was
The
awful, right?
the way she draws their desperation, like the looks of
And
tragedy in their faces.
then Oopa stabs
I
um
know. I
Mia.
know.
It's
That's so
horrible.
devastating.
It's like, whoa, no.
And those
No.
reaction shots when they're witnessing it happening, it's so, yeah, it's so
She's this
visceral.
horrible knocker thing with the veins and all that. And but the
Hmm.
thing that got me was Fushi is unable to kill Upa or zombie knocker Upa even though
Yeah.
this is something I think is interesting. So Fushi's in the form of Perona here and can't do it. And I think it's a very interesting statement about Fushi's developing humanity,
Mm,
that then this could be a weapon the knocker uses against Fushi as well, I suppose, right?
yes, definitely possible.
Uh,
Coupled with the scene of shucks, I've lost her name. Tonari. coupled with the scene of Tonari picking up the sword and wanting to fight her friends in this, in this undead form and shaking, and
Yeah.
Fushi, taking that sword and pushing it down and not making her have to be the one to do that.
Right. Right.
Very, very good scene. He's such a loyal character, his desire to protect those that he cares about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the others show that loyalty too, even though I don't know them very well. I thought that the big guy, Uroi, I think his name, he makes a literal sacrifice. First, he chops his arm off because it's getting infected by the knocker, and then he tells Fushi, take your small form and I'll throw you. And then the owl Ligard swoops down and picks him up. So there's a team effort there. It's
Yeah,
kind of beautiful. This is such a sad image of him, of Uroi being, the thing is entered as the stump on his arm there, and it's like, oh
yeah.
this was
It's really grotesque seeing
yeah,
how the knockers will take over living people and have them force them to turn on one another. Like, that's a really disturbing kind of enemy. It stops being an enemy that just steals forms from Fushi, which already is very disturbing because it's literally stealing pieces of his very identity, pieces that he's picked up and carried for himself and for those he loves. That's being stolen from him. That's already disturbing, but now taking people alive and forcing them to taking away their autonomy, their freedom, and forcing them to turn on one another just like adds another level of disturbing nature in these knockers.
yeah, yeah. The way I was taking it too is just when the knocker takes over you, you're gone, you're dead.
Yes, I agree.
But it has your form still, and so your loved ones will see that and be unable to defend themselves because that beloved form is there in front of them, and they can't disassociate
Yeah.
the knocker from their loved one. So that's really cruel. And it's interesting too if you think about how, yes, our identities come from our own I guess qualities and memories and things like that, which the knocker steals. But our identities also come from our friends, from our loved ones, the people around us. And if it steals them away from us, then yeah, there's something just primally awful about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I very much agree. That's very well put.
Yeah. So yeah, this whole setup thing, this whole fight with the zombie knockers and and Hayase's
The mourning scene was also really devastating. Them
uh-huh.
standing over their friends' bodies and recognizing like these were just kids. These were not adults that made a choice for their lives. These were children trying to survive, and that was taken from them. And that too also I think proves that, well, maybe it doesn't prove it. I guess they could have died by other means because there was a lot of fighting going on, but they are definitely dead. It's not like they're, you know, um living on now that they're not being possessed by the knockers.
Yeah, I know that was tough. Yeah. And then
Very tough.
you have this scene as well where Hayase's sort of a chaotic element in here, is if you needed more chaos than what the knockers are delivering. And it's at a point where Fushi is in the form of Gugu, and he's about to try to get the courage to kill the three friends who are no longer really the friends. They're zombies at this point. And then she comes along and she's got Hayase's comes along and she's got Tonari there.
Tonari.
So that was an interesting tense scene where, and of course she's like, no, let me kill them for you, and because I love you so much the way you are, and I know you can't do this, so I'll do everything for you. And it's like, ugh, yeah. But starting with this one, and she's got her dangling over the what's remaining of all the zombies that Fushi had killed earlier. So that was a tense scene, and you see poor Tonari here, very much, ready to sacrifice herself, right?
Yeah.
That was an
Absolutely.
interesting moment for her. I felt like that was a key moment for Tonari in her development, because previous to here, as much as I do like her character and don't blame her in the least, she has acted in a kind of selfish manner, like in a way that she's exploited Fushi. Not exactly the way Hayase has been doing it, but
Not even anywhere near the way Hayase has been
yeah,
doing it.
not exactly
Yes.
that way, but still,
She's,
she has been exploitative. And here she is very self-sacrificial. She's ready
yeah.
to,
And I
yeah,
think that a lot shows too, when we met her, she was a kid living in a lawless land, trying to get out and trying to get her friends out and trying to survive. And she saw Fushi as an opportunity
yeah,
to get that. And we watched her go from seeing him as this opportunity to a person
yeah,
and caring about him and wanting to fight alongside him and being willing to put herself at risk and her friends at risk to save him. And then when it comes to this point, she values protecting his life over her own. So we really see a strong character arc with her
mm,
in that introduction versus how it all ends. So we're seeing him humanizing other people, but we're also seeing her doing the same. And I don't blame her for her beginning knowing how she's had to grow up.
yeah, yeah. I'm really glad we got all the background information on her. I feel
Yeah.
much more fleshed out, and
Yes.
now a lot of her actions actually make sense in
Yeah.
retrospect. It's actually kind of cool storytelling in a way, right? I mean, that's not
Yes.
not the normal necessarily way to do
It's
it,
not
but
the Western norm,
yeah, it's
but that
cool.
that is very common, I think, in manga to
That's it.
introduce a character in a very mysterious, jarring, like what's going on kind of way. You make your initial impressions, you make your initial judgments on them,
Yeah.
and then the mangaka deconstructs what you know about them and shows you something new that recontextualizes everything. It's a really cool storytelling style. It's a really cool characterization style.
I hope we see her again. Of course, I said the same thing about Perona. I hope we don't get a volume like 5 volumes down the road where suddenly Fushi turns into Tonari and like, whoops, I guess she died.
It's definitely possible.
So, and then you have this, I thought, fairly poignant scene where they're laid out, the three, and
Mhm.
presumably we don't see it. They spare us that, but we see that Fushi is ready to go stab them in the heart, essentially, to kill the knocker core in them,
Yeah,
and
it's really
that's
devastating.
presumably how they get laid out there. And then Tonari has her mourning there and talking about each of them, giving them a little more, personality, telling us about how Upa was sold by her parents and how Mia was the one who gave her a friend group and how Leori, or sorry, Uroi was like an older brother. So yeah, I mean, they do get fleshed out, but I think their main purpose was really to flesh out Tonari, and I guess
Yeah.
they did that. They played that role.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that scene did a good job of showing what they meant to her. We didn't get the chance to get to know them, but they were people in this world that held value and significance to the people that knew them.
Yeah. Did you buy the part where we're assuming that the older people on this island are mostly actually criminals, that they're murderers and such, and that there's
Yeah.
so did you buy the moment when they, represented by this gentleman with the beard here, who sees these kids laid out and said, "Oh, but they left. They went out on the boat, and then, well, yeah, they came back to help." And he's like, "Oh, they died for scum like us." And then there's just a kind of like repentance almost.
No,
Okay,
I
you
didn't buy it. No, that was one of my things. And I don't know.
a little too abrupt.
I don't want to be too nitpicky, yeah, but that is kind of that it's a lawless land. People murder for
Yeah,
seemingly very simple things and it's just accepted and allowed. Like it's been built up for us what kind of land this is. And it is a little bit unbelievable that an entire group of people could change the very like how they've been living for years and what they've accepted as true for so long based off of such a very short influence of Fushi and of like this presence and everything, this uprising that's happened. It's been so quick. Sure, maybe he is like, we all suck. these children, they were so innocent. Maybe he did, but the idea that Tonari could stay behind and make this place better. As I said, I'll hope with her, but it is very hopeful to think that
Dream.
that sort of thing could happen. Yeah.
Yeah, little pie in the
I mean,
sky.
I want that. I want that. I'm not saying humanity is incapable of it, but just what we know of this island and what we know of how short of a time,
Right.
they've been here, Fushi has been here. It is tough for me to agree with. It's tough for me to believe.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we're not just talking about like the dregs of society. We're talking about people who've committed horrible crimes.
Yeah, they were sent here for a reason. And while some of them may have been sent here unjustly, most of them were sent here for a reason. And we know, like, we watch the bodies hang. We know that bad things are happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess even hardened criminals have a piece of humanity somewhere in there.
I absolutely believe that they do. I
Yeah.
absolutely believe that they do. However, to believe that the whole island would agree with wanting this change,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it is a bit unbelievable to me.
That much. But I guess even Tonari does express some like, I may be crazy, but I'm gonna try this, So but yeah, good luck. And I hope we see her again. I really do.
I do too.
So then they do bid goodbye, and there's one of the friends is left. What was his name? Sandal. Okay, he's
Cool.
left. Yeah, good for
I don't know.
Sandal.
You're lucky if I remember the main characters' names. I'm not gonna remember Sandal.
Yeah. Poor Sandal. Maybe he'll come back too. I don't know. But they do send Ligard. How are you saying the owl's name? Ligard, I guess.
I'm saying owl.
Okay. They do send Owl off to look after. We'll call him Hedwig. To look after Fushi. So I have a feeling that little connection that Tonari is leaving in place could possibly bear fruit later on. That she says to him, Ligard, go with him. The outside world's a lot freer than here, and someday lead me to him. So we shall see.
Yep. We definitely have big foreshadowing that we'll see her again.
Yeah. And then this, which we talked about already. So, and
I loved the way Fushi handled that. I loved that she was like, take my form. Wouldn't I be powerful? Wouldn't we be great together? Because to her, that's still victory. Maybe she's not going to get together with him. Maybe she's not going to live on with him. Maybe she's not going to have his baby, but she could still live on in the sense of he takes on her form. That would be an honor. And he just creates another boat, pushes her away, and just tells her, I'm not going to think about you. Like, oh, it was such a cold ending that I felt was so worthwhile. Like, it was that was the kind of ending that I would have wanted for her,
Yeah. Oh, it was hard. So yeah, he just, I
Mhm.
hate you. I won't think anything of you, even.
That was it. Yeah, that was it.
She's
That was the line.
like hanging there. I know.
I know. Yeah, because she knew. I mean, obviously she knew that she couldn't win him over organically. That's why this volume opened up the way that it did.
Yeah. And then comes the knocker.
Yep.
Okay. And then more directions from the beholder dude who's doing his thing, I guess, more or less. And Fushi's a bit sad, but good old Poran is still in the story for a bit. And this was the most poignant part of this for me.
Me too. Yeah. Go for it. Tell me why.
Yeah, I bet we have similar reasons. But yeah, I mean, I've had, I was very close to my grandparents, for example, and the special kind of relationship that can develop at least between an older person and a young person is a beautiful thing. Yes. I think that people who are elderly have a lot to give and a lot to teach. And Poran isn't, you don't necessarily think of her as wise, but she still has a lot to give. And there's something to her being so vivacious in spite of, her troubles. She's done some bad things. We know that she's a full human being in that sense. She's deeply flawed. But there's just something very wonderful about this relationship between this old woman and this young boy, because that's what Fushi is still, really. He's still fairly innocent. And to see her wander into dementia, and to have that portrayed in here in a relatively short but effective space, I thought was powerful. And to have Fushi have to deal with this the
Yeah.
way we have to deal with our elders sometimes, and seeing them go that way, it spoke to me. So was that similar for you?
Similar, yeah. I think it's important to remember that Bjorn was a really big part of Fushi learning and growing up. And, she taught him a lot. She cared for him when he was trying to isolate, and she forced him to have family and forced him to be cared for, taught him language, taught him a lot of social skills. Like, she mothered him. And then as she gets older, she's not able to care for herself anymore. He carries her on his back. She starts to lose herself in her dementia. There's a lot of, it's an honor to be able to care for our parents and our grandparents, even when it's not easy. And I think, as I understand it, even more so in Asian communities and Asian cultures, that's an honor, and that's something that is very valuable to do. And we watch that with Fushi. We watch him, for this woman who was a mother figure to him, to have the honor of carrying her, and staying by her when she does. And I, much like you, have had personal experience with this. My dementia runs in my family, and my great grandma, I got to see it with her when she was younger, but presently my Oma is going through it. And it is very interesting to see, conversations have become very cyclical. We go in a circle pretty much all the time now. And if she gets caught in her circle, I always change my answers a little bit, so that she doesn't notice. But if she does notice, then a lot of times she'll get angry, because it sucks. Or conversation will even change mid-conversation, where I'll say something, and then she'll get mad, and she's like, "You called me stupid." And I'm like, "Oh, Oma, I'm so sorry if I said that. I know I didn't. I know I didn't. I know that it was just a normal conversation." But she realizes that she's forgotten something, and then her mind, because of the embarrassment, I think, changes it.
Mm.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to go into this. I have seen, like, the anger side of it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And it's hard. And I feel like the mangaka, did such an amazing job at depicting the sorrow and the pain of watching someone you love go through this, and how badly you want to care for them and love them and nurture them and make this easier on them. And but it hurts to go through it on your end too. Um, yeah, I think she did an astounding job at depicting this very, very difficult human loss. And I think that it was perfect for this series, where we've explored loss so many times, and now we're seeing it in a slow regression instead of a tragic, quick
Yeah.
way. What did you think about Pioran is apparently going to be reincarnated in a different
Uh,
form, in a
yeah,
different way?
this was a little weird to me. Yeah, well, let's talk about that in a second. But I just want to point out too how wonderful this was when of course, Fushi is just trying to, he thinks he'll be endangering her. And so he keeps trying to leave her, but he's like, "Oh, but she'll be cold. I need to give her a fur." Or, "Oh, she'll be hungry. I need to get," and he keeps going back. And even the beholder's like, "Make up your mind, dude." But you can see that conflict in him. He doesn't want to endanger. He can't let go of her. And finally, she catches him, and he's in the form of Mia, the chair girl, but she recognizes him. He's like, "Oh, I'm not Fushi," and she's like, "Fushi," and there's that wonderful smile of hers with missing a few teeth. That's her, full of life. And then we do see her eventually succumb to the dementia, but she's given by the beholder
Yeah.
this. I don't quite get it, but he says he's going to, before you're ensnared by paradise, which I take to mean a kind of just like you dissolve into the universe or whatever, I will intercept you
Hmm.
Okay, so he's pretty powerful. And the
Is
next
he the
thing,
Grim Reaper? What is he? I
I
mean, I
don't,
don't think he's the Grim. I think that's more of a Western myth. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know what he is.
Then she comes back as this, I don't know, I can't tell the exact color, but it looks like silver-haired young woman,
Okay,
right?
so I don't think she came back as that.
Oh,
That's not
that's
the
not
way I
her?
interpreted that scene. I think
Okay.
that that is just so when she died, we
Remembering her
saw,
youth?
yeah, we saw her in the form of her youth because she mentioned earlier in the volume, I was a real looker when I was young. So I think we're
Yeah.
seeing, the form of herself that she still kind of thinks about herself in. I think
Okay.
a lot of times when you age, it's like this form, who I am now, this wrinkled side of me, this isn't me. This isn't the me that I know. So
Okay.
she died, and we see her as her the way she knows herself.
Well, that makes sense because
And then
then
she turns into the ball.
yeah, or he sucks her into the ball or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, he pulls her into that. And I
Yeah.
don't think we've actually seen her reincarnated form. I think we're going to
Okay.
see that in the future. That's
All
the way
right.
I
Good
interpreted
call.
that scene, but I don't actually know. Again, I was going to watch it in the anime and maybe
I
get more
mean, what you
clarity.
just said makes a whole lot more sense than anything I could come up with. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah, I think you're right because he appears and she's remembering, her young form, and that's true of, I think, often with people. Look, I basically run around thinking of myself as the same dude I was when I was 20.
Yes.
I'm slightly older now, but I
Yes.
don't normally, unless I'm having a bad day with my hip or something, I'm not normally
Right.
thinking of myself as that different. But yeah, then so she sees him, he has the ball, and so she approaches, that's her foot, approaching, and then he slurps her
Sucks
in.
her into her. Sucks
Yeah,
her into it. Yeah.
to be
So I
reincarnated. Okay,
to
good one.
yeah, to be turned into something else, I think.
Okay, good.
Now
And
it's going to be something useful to Fushi. I'm hopeful that doesn't mean some really powerful form that Fushi gets to take on. I hope that means a companion that he gets to stick with for a while or something like that.
that would be nice,
Because
especially
I think that's
considering.
truly what Fushi needs is someone to stay with him that he can live life with. Now, will the cloaked man think that that's truly what Fushi needs? Are we actually going
uh,
to get what Fushi needs? Or are we going to get what the cloaked man thinks that Fushi needs?
yeah,
That's the question.
it's a good question. And then Fushi mourns. He mourns this loss. He's devastated. He drops the plate or whatever, and sees that she's passed
Oh
away.
my goodness. The way this manga depicts, I can't pull up her name right now because my iPad's acting up, but the mangaka,
Oh
what's her
yes,
name?
Yoshitoki Oima.
The way Oima depicts despair on the
Mm,
face,
yeah,
extraordinary.
yeah, it's quite effective. Yeah, it's very well conveyed here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so poor thing. But then I'm confused about what happens after that. So he says goodbye to Purin. Fine, thank you. Purin leaves with the donkey and says, "I was happy too." Goes on this trail, and then there's an explosion. It says a few years later,
Oh, right.
boom, and then a person is basically like a projectile thrown from this explosion, lands in the water, and I see a thing that looks a little bit like a knocker there, but I'm not sure. I don't know what that is, but somebody saying ha and ha ha, and it looks like an older Fushi. Is that
Yeah,
what?
I don't know. No
And then
idea what happened there.
the next page, that's I
That's
don't know.
Fushi.
But it says after the death of his greatest mentor, Fushi spends his days in the form of a boy and grows. The next person he meets is a virtuous young man. And then, okay.
So is the explosion the reincarnation of Bjorn in the form of a young man?
Is it? I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know either. Read and find out.
Maybe we will find out, I guess. Yeah. And then we have this cast is growing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Philip, we just told everybody at the beginning of the video that we'll be reading 2 volumes next time, so we're at least getting one more. Are you feeling like you are? How are you feeling? Are you wanting to continue, or are you continuing because we have discussions
I'm
going
definitely
over?
not ready to give up on the series. I mean,
Okay.
the first 3 volumes, I thought, I'm gonna love this.
Mhm.
And then volume 4 and 5 and 6, I've been kind of like, what is going on? And having to go back and figure things out, and then talk with you, and you help me figure out more things. I mean, that's kind of fun too. But I feel like a fuddy-duddy sometimes, trying to figure out what's going on here. But
No, you're okay.
I'm hoping that the next few, maybe reading 2 at a time, I'll figure out more at a time. We'll see. But
We'll see.
I'm still wanting to continue at this point. If I feel like every single issue as confused and having to go back and kind of like I am with the last 3, then I could see myself starting to ask myself, do I want to continue here? But if there's some more great storytelling like there was in the first 3, then I definitely want to continue. And those first 3 got me to a point where I was already like thinking, yeah, I really want to see this series to its finish. So let's see what happens. How are you feeling?
Yeah, this is definitely, at least as it is right now, it's not as hitting me as much as, again, as you said, as much as it did in the beginning. The first few volumes, I was like, oh, we're gonna get into some stuff, and it did peter out for me as well. I do think that I'm finding more in it that I'm loving probably than you are.
Uh-huh.
But I I think I would, it's only 20 volumes, so I think I would see it through
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah.
I am enjoying it enough to read 20 volumes, absolutely, which sounds silly, but they go by quick.
Maybe I should start watching anime.
Honestly, I think you should. I don't watch anime. I am a manga only. Like, I do not watch. This is actually the first time that I'm like
Oh,
consistently watching an anime. Yeah. And it's because it's really helping. It's clarifying stuff in
wow.
the series. So I'm really liking the way this anime is done. It's following it very loyally, but it's also expanding on things just a touch more, showing it a little bit
Yeah.
more so that I'm getting some clarity. So maybe you should.
Great tip. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Merphy. I always love talking with you, and this has been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for watching, for your comments that have been so helpful, actually, for us to get as we go
Yes,
through this series. We really appreciate you guys a ton.
definitely.
Yeah. So next time we'll be back on Merphy Napier reviews with volume 7 and 8,
Woo!
and we look forward to seeing you all there. Until next time.